Hello, everybody. Natalie and Pam coming to you live with some Kundalini talk. Um, really excited about being on here again a little later in the evening as we didn't do our morning routine. So it is sporadic. So for just bear with us, listeners. Hopefully, you guys, if you listen to us, can go back and just kind of listen to what we are putting out there. And wanted to kind of talk about an update on last time we talked about sexual energy and healing sexual energy, and then actually learning how to wield that power inside of us internally. What does it mean? How do we utilize it? Are we utilizing that energy correctly? And I think the answer would be no, absolutely not. And I think it's because we just don't know how. We were never taught. Um, any sexual talks are typically your common kind of talk, right? About how a woman's body works, a man's body works,
Right, sex education.
sex education, the play between men and women, perhaps.
Right.
Sorry, but not necessarily the individual journey of abstaining from orgasm. And I'm sorry if this is not appropriate for children. Please don't play it around your children if they're there or whatever, if you feel uncomfortable. But abstaining from that for the purposes of healing, which then actually ties into like this Kundalini energy that we have internally. And I can tell you from my own experience, and Pam and I will be sharing our experiences, is that I've had Kundalini energy move through me before, but never like this. And literally letting the energy detox my body. And there's some discomfort in my body that I was aware of, but it's like more profound now that I'm allowing this energy to kind of move through me. And I have this energy waking me up at night in the middle of the night, and I have channels opening up in ways that are different. And I don't mean typically when we're channels, we're like, oh, spiritual channels, and I'm having connections to all of these wonderful things. And I'm talking about body channels, like physical body differences and things that are in the body. So our organs and the way we feel and stomach and uterus and throat and breathing and our sinuses and all of that stuff is actually being opened up. Basically, letting go of the obstruction in the body to actually be able to even breathe properly, which to me, the breath of life, right? That's where it all starts is in
Mhm.
the breath.
Right.
And I don't even know that we realize how shallow we're breathing. Like, I think people do breathing practices,
Mm.
which is great. That's a part of it, right? But then there's this other piece where it's like, but are you using sexual energy with the breath? And people would say, but yes. But are you with another partner who's willing to go through that with you? People would say yes. And then I'd say, but are you abstaining from actually having intercourse and just allowing that sexual energy to reside within you without releasing it with the intention of moving it and healing it? And I think more people would say probably not. So, I'm not doing
Like,
it in
what are you
that way
talking about?
because they think about tantric as being like this co-participation and maybe this heightened sense of orgasm happening together. But I also think it's just abstaining from releasing that energy and letting it do what it needs to do. So, yeah, so what are your thoughts on that whole topic, Pam?
Um, well, I've definitely experienced the Kundalini in different ways. I think one of my most profound was through a yoga practice that I was doing a couple of years ago. And then I had energy, healing from somebody else. And that was actually long distance. And like I definitely felt some Kundalini stuff from there. So there's been different, things over the years for sure. But with this practice that we have intentionally, um, well, I would say intentionally dedicated ourselves to. We didn't seek it out, right? It was a ripple effect. and and it's like, okay, sure, I'm on board. Let's see what happens. And so it's literally like experimentation and just observation and taking notes. And so like it's really cool. I agree. I've noticed a lot with my body, right? A lot of stuff. And then the thing with the solar plexus and the, sacral chakra is the bladder. And that was one thing I remember talking to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going pee every 30 minutes. I'm like, it's just detoxing, right, from the system. And so I think that's the most important thing is when you protect your aura, right? When you protect your energy bubble, because we do interact with everybody else, whether they're acquaintances or they live in the home, it doesn't matter. We're magnetic, energy fields. And so you're picking up stuff, especially if you have leaks and holes and rips and tears, like the stuff that you're feeling and thinking, it probably isn't even yours. And so when you're in relationships and like there's intimacy and all of that, like, right, you're picking up on all of that and then you're bonding and attaching those energies. And that's why I think it's a lot harder for people to leave relationships, because they can't separate and they can't have their own, energy bubble. So for me, like, obviously, I was gonna say relationships aren't an issue. So used to kind of being alone. Um, but is protecting that space, and having a new awareness. And so for me, it's really seeing my chakras, really going deeper and connecting with my chakras and food. Tonight I roasted potatoes and broccoli, and did some carrots with some spices and things like that, right? But I just really have been eating like orange and yellow foods and rooted those lower chakra foods, because like that's where I'm dealing with is cleansing all this energy. So I think that's the most vital thing, is just to take time to really separate your space energetically from everybody around you, and really get awareness of how protected you are, how drained you are, how grounded you are, how impacted you are. Um, and really, work with your own body. That's kind of my angle and what I'm coming at from it.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of like if you're fragmented or you feel like you're ripped and you're letting all these other energies come inside of you, you don't really have the chance to even feel your own energy or Kundalini energy. When you add the abstaining from allowing yourself so basically the way it kind of works, it's like you're charging up that space, right, that sexual energy, but you're not releasing it and you're allowing it to do its work.
Like a
That
solar
moves the
battery.
Kundalini. Yeah, it's like a battery and it moves. It's crazy because I feel like the Kundalini energy will show you the obstruction in your body and it's going to be different for everybody. Like
Hmm.
you were saying, bladder, mine is in my uterus, and
Hmm.
I'm having pain and stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, like this thing is telling me to pay attention to this for a reason. There's obstruction there. And then the nutrition piece is a huge, like you said, a huge part of it. Like I can't drink coffee. I tried and I would get instantly pain. And it's because I've abstained from releasing that energy. I'm not saying I'm never going to release the energy, but right now I'm letting it do its job in healing me and moving through me. And literally the other night, I woke up in the middle of the night. It woke me up. This Kundalini energy woke me up. And what it did in my body is I felt it moving up my body into my sinuses, and I heard like, kinda like a little pop, like, just like that, and that little pop almost, like, released my sinuses so I could breathe properly. It was just crazy. It's almost like when your ears pop, but,
Hmm.
like, this was, like, in my nose area, like, my yeah, and it
Right, the
just and
third
it was
eye,
like
yeah.
Yeah, and it was like
Mhm.
and it just popped and I was like, and then it was like, "Oh my god, I haven't been breathing properly." As much as I do breath work, this was a
Right.
channel that opened up that I didn't even I was like, "Whoa." So it wasn't like, because I think always Kundalini's always like, "Oh, let's connect to the cosmos and let's open up the channels and connect." It wasn't even that. It was a very, very it was an embodiment. It was a cleansing of the body in a way that I couldn't get to just by breath work because it started from the root to the sacral all the way up, and I can feel it showing me the obstructions in my body that need to be healed,
Right.
which has been yeah, which is
That's why I'm
just
like such an advocate for the chakras. Like that's
I
why.
know.
And when I use
Mhm,
the pendulum and my like tools, like I can feel that in other people. And that
mhm,
is so
mhm,
cool. Like I've been able to pick up and sense like, okay, this is, and I actually dated a guy and I think he was one of the first people like he let me practice on him and
mhm,
like
mhm,
I got up to his stomach and I was just like, whoa, dude. And
mhm,
like but yeah, I think it's so important and people don't really fully understand or right it's not taught the chakras and
mhm,
your energy body and the way it just and we're merging them right your lower and your upper and so there's
mhm,
so much beautiful stuff that's happening that you just don't fully understand when you're disconnected and then that's
mhm,
why it's like you're shut off you're blocked and that's all of these illnesses heart disease and
mhm,
anxiety and thyroid issues severe migraines. I actually read in I think one of my books that like a closed off crown chakra or some wounding issues with that is part of bipolar, and it
mm,
makes total sense when I think about my mother who has bipolar because I
mhm,
see that she has like this spiritual connection. She's cancer and she's got a thing with numbers that I know she passed down to me. But I think she's had so much trauma. Like I know she's had so much trauma that it completely has blocked, right? The chakras that it
mhm,
causes mental illness.
mhm, mhm.
From my own life experience, I'm not saying every single person with every single thing, but
Sure.
um,
But yeah, I
yeah.
think it's crazy. If you let this energy so I would say this, if and it's hard to find a partner who can do this with you because for me, it's not about I've said this a million times. It's not about relationship. It's about healing. And I don't think we put that at the forefront of a connection to our partner or a person that we're working with, right? It's typically, "Oh, let's get together," and then before you know it, I don't know how long people wait before they're actually having intercourse. Um, probably, 3 days, 4 days seems long for some people, I don't know. I don't know how people operate. There's a slew of people. Some people don't wait at all, whatever it is. Now, this is not a right, wrong, good or bad conversation, but I would say that that energy is actually not being utilized to its potential at all. It's just not. And if you can find someone, which it's hard to do, that is able to work with you and abstain from actually doing something like and letting you, right, have that energy and use it to heal, then I feel like you're actually igniting that will within you and it you just got to let the energy do it for you because I can tell you it will show you the obstructions in your body. Like yeah, we can having astral plane and out of body experiences and all these things. I mean, that's commonplace these days. People do that all
Mhm,
the time, but they're
mhm.
forgetting their body and that's you need a both and. You need the body to be able to survive so that you can have these great experiences, but you also want to feel good.
Right.
You don't
You
want
gotta
to
come
feel like
back to the
crap.
vessel.
That's correct. And so what I'm learning with this energy is that it's actually helping me figure out where my obstructions are and what is the deeply seated rooted trauma around that particular obstruction.
Mhm,
And I can tell you that the other night when it woke me up, I could actually visually see the snake inside of me, which is just crazy because it seems there's more than one for sure. I
mhm.
know that it's typically two snakes intertwined.
Right.
Um, I can tell you this was a white snake. And I don't know if it's the same visual for everybody once they're able to see it, but I can tell you that when I was in the practice of doing um, tantric breathing with a partner, and that when I saw the snake, there was a totally different energy, different snake, right? So,
Mm,
why snake energy? I'm not sure. I don't know why that's typically connected to the system. But that is what I did see, and it was crazy because it was like this snake was, like, working with my energy in my body, releasing channels, but also I have a lot of obstruction in my uterus, and I think there's a lot of trauma that I'm holding there that I didn't
mm,
even realize. Like, I
mhm.
just
Oh,
couldn't, and
absolutely.
I tried forever to figure it out. I've gone to doctors.
Mm,
I thought it was mother issues. I've just done all this stuff, and I'm like, "No, this is something deeper."
mhm.
And this is allowing me to actually see it visually, what's going on. And it's
Mhm.
some deep shit, I'm telling
Yeah,
you. It's really,
yeah.
really, really deep shit. Yeah.
That's why I mentioned the womb space last week, because there's so much subconscious trauma buried in those layers.
Mhm,
That is women. I don't think we're absolutely, we're not aware of it. We have no idea. And then when you start peeling that back, it can be pretty intense. And
mhm,
honestly, it was sexual like experience really that unblocked that for me.
mhm,
Um, and so that was like whoa. So like let's take a step and figure out how to heal this right going forward again with
mhm.
intention. So
Yeah,
yeah, the
and it's hard,
journey.
and my hope for humanity is, like, find if you can find a partner who can do this work with you and understand that it's about healing and not, "Oh, let's be together. Oh, let's, I don't know, get married," or I don't know. I just, not that that's wrong. I mean, people who wanna live a traditional lifestyle, that's great. But I do feel that in the past, we naturally didn't just do things like that. I mean, I guess for, argument's sake, they could say, "Well, no, we were just about survival and, they were just whatever, take a woman and let's just," you know, and perhaps it was that way, but I think there was more, connection happening than we realize. I mean, if you look in nature, there's whole ceremonies that take place
Mhm.
by different animals, like the males do these dance birds, you see it in nature. The
Yeah,
males will do
well,
their feathers and
yeah.
they'll just be like, "Hey, look at me." And then, then the woman's like, "Oh, I don't want you. I don't know what you're doing. I want that one," or whatever it is. But there's all these mating rituals that happen. And, I don't know, our rituals are, I don't know what our rituals are. They're very distorted these days. We have distorted rituals.
Yeah, it can compare to like paganism when we
Yeah.
celebrated right by I mean that's what Valentine's Day really was, a time
Mhm,
of
mhm,
fertility,
mhm,
right? And then
mhm,
same thing with May Day and Beltane.
mhm,
That is the
mhm,
sacred marriage of the god and
mhm,
goddess.
mhm,
Hand fastings, right? So all of those
mhm,
customs that we have come from those things.
mhm,
So there's
mhm.
always been this connection and this merging. Um, but yeah, and I think with Beltane, they used to just like for a year, right? Like make a contract, like come together at festival for like a week and be like, yeah, okay, I'll pair up with you for like the next year. And then we'll come back and like, we'll see how it goes and just whatever. So I remember reading about that.
But
And
yeah.
yeah.
Let's evaluate if this is working for
Right.
me.
They're like, yeah, who do I just want to pair up with for like a year. Contract's done. See you next spring.
Oh my god, contracts, that's, yeah. Which is why I was like, "I'm a weirdo, I think I need contracts," and then it was like, "No, you'll never find somebody who wants to do contracts." I was like, "Oh, well, let me just do this thing alone." But
I
fine.
don't know. See, that's where I'm different with you though, because that's where I see the true power and potential of like one other, who can hold that space, who,
Sure.
like, I don't know. I think, right, like we're talking about solar batteries and and all of that, but energetically being portals and gateways and amplifying and tapping into like you know what I mean? Just like, I don't know, the tree of life, rooting down, rooting up into
Yep.
consciousness, like through the masculine, through the feminine, in perfect balance, perfect harmony. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I just have a bigger picture of potential of energy that I want to use in like a sacred space. And I think that's the thing too. Like, we all have sexual wounding and heal, that's, again, I think just even looking at wounded archetypes, right? We've talked about this in past episodes. You and I both have like Aphrodite, you being the Taurus, me with, the Pisces. So there's definitely like, there's a lot of wounded energy with Aphrodite. You look at her myth stories with different, lovers or husbands or whatever, so we kind of take on those narratives. So I can see definitely like Aphrodite and Hermes, Aphrodite and Aries, like, maybe Aphrodite and Adonis. Like, I've kind of played out some of those relationships with men, um, but all not really consciously aware of what was happening. And so when you're looking at like teenage years and stuff, like, I mean, I had my daughter when I was 16, and today we're all sitting around the cafeteria with the students, and my couple of the other teachers are talking about, because prom just happened and seniors are going to
Mhm.
graduate. And so they're just talking about senior year. It was senior skip day. And they're like, Pam, what did you do like for senior something or whatever? And I was like, I didn't have that. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't have a senior year. Like, I had my daughter my junior year of high school and got a GED. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't, like, I started working at 17 to take care of my family and
Mhm.
had to be the caregiver the whole time because, like, partner never stood up for that. So, like, there's a lot of like sexual like wounds that subconsciously, right, dictate kind of the relationships and the people and all those things. So for me in this process, I think I've been crying a lot for sure in waves of like really strong days and then kind of more heavier days, but I'm transmuting it super fast and I'm learning and I'm seeing and I'm healing, and it's really recognizing this like connection, right? Like, that I can totally be accountable for, this sense of connection that I never ever have truly received in my life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's just
Mhm.
this idea of something on the other side with some invisible person that doesn't exist. So it's been emotional
Mhm.
and it's been freeing, and I'm grateful for sure. And it was so unexpected. And I think the most important thing is that when is like, I'm just surrendering and trusting to the process completely. And so whenever I feel like ego kind of like, questioning shit or throwing stuff up, there's also this like, well, better. Like, the truth. You know what I mean? Like, you can't lie to yourself or give yourself that perspective. You need to like really branch out, become the hanged man and find a new perspective. And that's what I've been doing nonstop. And just questioning everything about me, like my beliefs, and why do I strongly feel that? Because I don't really want that. Like I told you, I'm like, I want to tear it out. I just like, I want to reach in, but it's like this core of my soul, and I'm never going to be able to tear that out. I can only reprogram it with conscious intention. And the beautiful thing that I'm really grateful for is the timing of this, is that I'm holding this space going in a ceremony with plant medicine soon. And so I feel, and I've been using dance and drumming,
Mhm.
really getting in touch with my body, in my own way, essentially. Just with dancing in my room, right? Just dancing during the day in public or whatever. Like, I don't care. I'm just dancing. And that's been really freeing. And so I feel like that's where it's carrying me. I'm going to have a massive release of this energy in plant medicine ceremony dancing. And then, like you said, we're not going to hold on forever. So who
Nope.
knows what the
Yeah.
second part of release will actually be, because I think that in itself will have its own powerful message and its own powerful healing. But right
Mhm.
now, it's just kind of carrying it through this sacred space to like this
Mhm.
bridgeway on the other side.
Yeah, and I think at the core of us, it is that natural instinct to want to do this with a partner or somebody else outside of us, right? With the
Well,
re
we're not meant to really be
with the
alone, as a
with the
species. We're a
with the
herd
with the
species.
with yeah, with, you know, at the core of it, that's that's obviously, like, what it is at the core of us. However, that is not the point. And that's from my perspective. The point
Oh,
is
no. No, definitely
is
not the point. It's an
to
individual journey to
to
be here.
yeah, the point to be able to, like you said, reprogram and grow roots for yourself and grow up for yourself, to stand, to be able to be fully standing on your own, but then those roots connect to other things, right? The trees are like that. They help each other. Of course, they're interconnected. Of course, but they're growing
Mm.
roots together so
Mhm.
that they can stand independently. And
They
that's
talk
the
to
part
each other. I
that's
love it.
yeah, and that's the part that gets skipped in society. That's the part, that's why it's not that I'm all, "Oh, no relationships ever." It's that I'm like, "Okay, let's try to do it in a way that's meaningful,
Mhm.
powerful, and is going somewhere that's gonna help both individuals grow." Because that's
Right.
what trees do anyway. Trees will send, for instance, if one of the trees is sick, all of the trees get together to help heal it, and they
Mhm.
send all the resources there to heal it. If it can't get healed, I believe they cut off connection so that the other ones can survive. It's just a natural way to
Mhm.
survive. Um, but I think we've cut that off for so, like, we can't even feel each other anymore
Mhm.
truly, and I'm like, if somebody can't truly feel me and my energy, I do not want them in my space, and I definitely do not want them physically. Like, no, thank you. Now that's for other people, however they wanna live their life is up to them, but for me personally, no, because I'm absorbing all the energy, I'm absorbing all of their stuff, and then
Mm.
I take it with me, and
Mm.
and do I want that? And if it's a bunch of different people, like, I that's chaotic for me, that's like, "Wait, I have my own shit I gotta figure out." You know what I mean? I don't need to
Mm.
absorb all these other people's energy. So to have somebody show up to say, "You know what? This isn't about us being together in a traditional sense where it's like, oh, we're together. You're and we have label and all this nonsense that I think I just feels nonsense. To have a true meaningful connection is more important to me. And
Yeah, I
that
agree. Like
and
labels
that
are
right there,
ridiculous.
yes, and to have somebody show up to say, "Hey, I'm here to help you through this, move you through this, and grow together." Where does it lead? I don't know.
Mm.
I'm not even gonna make anything up about it. Now, does stuff surface? Absolutely, because guess what? We have old programming all in us.
Mhm.
But to be able to look at that and then masterfully transform it, transmute it, transcend
Mhm.
it, that's where the work's done. And then
Right?
we can start seeing each other for who we really are
Mm.
and our beauty and magnificence. But until then, like, I don't
Right.
know, but I think with the Kundalini, since we're talking about the power of Kundalini and
Mm.
how it has a role in this, is that if you are able to find somebody who can do this work with you, if you are able to find a partner who's willing to do this with you, and you're able to abstain, like, ignite that energy within each other, but abstain from actually giving it to each other and hold it in, that you literally can allow the Kundalini to do its work internally. And I can guarantee you, it's not about hitting these altered states of consciousness and all that. It's really about you being with your body and understanding where the obstruction is within the body so that you can heal those parts of your body, because it will tell you where there are some blocks.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, I have blocks. Hey, poetic. I have blocks within my uterus where I'm like going, okay, this energy is trying to heal. So, I mean, I feel very blessed that I had a person show up to help me through this process. Like,
Mm,
it's just a blessing. I don't know, there's no other way to explain it, you know? And that can see it from my point of view and see it that it's not about, us being a relationship and being together. And no, the forefront of what we're doing is healing individually and together and growing in that healing, which
mhm.
is, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I guess there are people out there like that.
Right, well, that's the
So I'm
important
not
thing.
just
You have to be
solo.
willing to heal yourself first through,
Uh-huh,
like, so many
mhm,
stages and phases before you
mhm,
can come together to heal with somebody
mhm.
else
That's
who's
correct.
gonna meet
Yep,
you halfway because they've done the work.
that's
Um,
correct.
your
That's correct.
Kundalini within you has to, right, kind of be awakened. You're dealing with your own masculine and feminine snake, right?
Mhm.
That's what's
Yep.
rising from being asleep at the base of the spine, right? That's what's coming up all the way to like that third eye, crown chakra, opening you up. So, yeah,
And to find somebody like a male counterpart who's doing this work, that's like, what? I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I mean, it's not something easy to find. I'm
right,
just gonna say that. It's not like just hanging
right.
out there for you saying, "Hey, here I am." You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
And we did a podcast episode in February when I was out with you. It was when we went live, right? Live together
Mhm,
in your
mhm,
couch.
mhm,
And you had talked, right, about like the rituals and the things that we did and how powerful that was. And
mhm,
this is truly a ripple effect from that
mhm,
night of you opening up, right? Setting intentions, really
mhm,
working with your inner feminine, healing, rising, opening your heart space. So I think it's been really beautiful to like kind of watch that for you and then see how like, yeah, the alignment just
mhm.
it was already there. It was already there planted and waiting realistically. And then it just started to blossom with the spring. So that's the way these things work,
Yeah,
when we're patient
it's
and we
true.
just open. And that's the thing, you have to open because it's so easy to shut the heart off and out of fear and uncertainty. And ego, it's one thing it wants to do, right? Survival, flight or flight, just kind of run instincts. But I think just being brave and vulnerable and opening the heart and keep moving forward into the unknown, the uncertainty is what really allows this beautiful
Mhm.
energy to show up. Otherwise, right, you're just keeping yourself blocked from it.
Yep, it's true, and not making anything up, like, I literally, for the first time, just completely just surrendered. I was
Mm.
like, "Whatever."
Yeah.
I give it to the universe and that's it. And then I just went on about my business, you know what I mean? And didn't really, I mean, I
Right.
think I started with really looking at what a healthy masculine energy is because again, for me, it wasn't about being in a relationship with somebody, Again, that's the forefront of most people. It was more about, okay, um, what does it feel like to have a healthy masculine energy in my space? What is it that I want to
Mhm.
experience from the masculine? What is it that I want to feel? How do I want to, how, when they walk away from me, how do I want to be left feeling? And really, when I tapped into that energy and understood that, and then I did ceremony to call that forth and say, I'm ready to accept this. You know, for me, it was just about really looking at the men in my life who are really there for me and really care and are doing the work and show up and having appreciation for them. Then it turned
Mhm.
into someone who was willing to do this work for me on a deeper level and understand. And again, I just let it emerge, and was it a person I even thought it would be? No. I didn't even I had the person that showed up, I had no there was, like I was like, "Wow, okay." You know what I mean? It just naturally, organically arose the way that it did, but I was also ready to receive it, and that's a big piece of it, and I think from the feminine principle, that's what it is. We can ask all day, but we're given the opportunity, but then we don't receive it. It's like we're there, and then we're like, "Oh, no, it's not that person. Why it's not this person." You know, I had no idea that this person was gonna show up this way for me, period. You know? We were always really good friends, you know? We were good friends, and that was it. We were like, "Okay, we're good friends," and that was it. I didn't ever think that it would turn into something like, "Hey, let's actually get together and figure out how we can heal, with each other fully, without making it about sex." Period. And and but using sexual energy to heal. Like, that's cool. Like, I don't think you guys, if you haven't done it, you don't really understand what it's like to use sexual energy to heal yourself internally and abstain from actually releasing that energy, letting it charge you, letting it move through you. It is a whole other level of stuff. I'm telling you right now, a complete other level. And it'll help you. It'll help heal the body. And then eventually, which I think the body is something we've been forgetting about on these spiritual journeys, right? Body,
Mm,
and then the spirit is naturally already healed, and but our mind, right? And our mind
right,
and our body being able to like coexist together
right.
and get
Well,
along and feel good. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Well, no, I was gonna say that I think that's the most important thing is like your own relationship and your own connection to your own body. Um, there's just there's so much shame, there's so much guilt that's culturally and societal, just thrown at us from very young ages. Again, right, that archetypal energy that just presents itself through us. Um, but also, I'm gonna lose it. Oh, I'm gonna lose it. I forgot. I forgot what I totally lost my train of thought. Damn it. Um, I'm sorry. Oh, save me, Natalie, save me. Oh, I can't hear you. It's muted.
I'm sorry. I was talking this whole time and I was on mute. That's
I know I was
hilarious.
gonna say I could see your lips moving, but it's muted. And then my brain totally went massively blank and I lost it
Oh,
all.
and I'm over here saying, "It's okay, don't worry, that happens." That's funny, and, I'm talking to myself over here, which is hilarious. Okay, so that's
Um,
funny, bloopers, we got bloopers. That's why I love live, though, it's real,
right?
it's raw, but it's,
Yeah.
unfiltered and uncensored. So there you go. Not easy for everybody
There's
to
no
do live.
script here.
No scripts ever, always real
But
life.
oh, your relationship with your body. That's what it was. See, and I'm back
Mhm.
on track.
Yeah, go ahead.
Stress, right? Like when we got into our master's degree together, that was the
Mhm.
first time in my life where I feel like I was kind of my own successful therapist
Mhm,
because
mhm,
through all of the practices and the learning experiences and all of the papers and all the things, I learned how to rewire my brain, right? I learned how to, from the negative to the positive, that, learned how to rewire and reprogram the nervous system so it wasn't like fight or flight mode and understand it and self regulate in ways that I couldn't before. You're talking about breathing earlier. I realized
mhm,
for the first time in my life that I was not breathing correctly. Like I'm going through my day just holding my breath,
mhm,
and so it's like, how do we even breathe consciously? And so like when I do breathwork ceremonies or try and do it intentionally, there's still this panic in me that like I can't get deep enough into my diaphragm. Like I can't, so like sometimes I have shortness of breath and I'll like kind of have a panic attack because of it, thinking like the ego thinks I'm going to die because I can't get enough breath into my body. um Realizing how disconnected, again, being like Pisces, right, fantasy kind of daydreamy sun sign, um always, right, escaping
yeah,
reality in a fantasy world, and so
mhm,
not grounded. And then learning that was part of my birth chart, even that I had no element of earth, and as part of my purpose of being here, like I had to learn to connect and ground and reharmonize with the earth and the earth's consciousness. And
mhm,
so when you're carrying all that stress in your body and anxiety and fear from every single day, like just survival mode, it's so hard. Like we just want to escape our bodies. And that's why we
mhm,
numb out, and there's like all the addictions and all of these things, these coping mechanisms that we use, sometimes in proper ways and sometimes in extreme that it's harmful. I think that's why people have self-harm to their bodies, right? Because like there's so much with a lack of self-love and confidence there. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just working on your own relationship with your body before even trying to seek, someone else's approval or validation. If like when you're talking about with working with this energy, and because it
Mhm,
definitely brings
mhm,
up so much.
mhm,
So much.
mhm.
Like, you have to be prepared to face
Oh, for
wounds
sure.
and
Mhm.
shadow, right? Because not only are we doing it on ourselves individually, we're
Yep.
healing our ancestral genetic line. So you think about your parents' sex life, your
Oh god.
grandparents. You
Please
think
don't.
about, look at all the women who have been oppressed, right? Who
Yeah.
like, when you think about, oh my gosh, like what they used to do to women in the medical field. I mean,
Mm,
look at that doctor, I can't remember his
mm,
name, but the psychologist that they put in jail because, he was bringing women to like
mm,
orgasm for psychosis. Um, so there's some messed up shadow trauma collective stuff that is
mm,
running through us
mhm,
generationally, culturally, it doesn't matter. So it's layers upon layers. You're not just doing it, you do yourself first, but then you get down to layers that are more
mhm,
archetypal and
mhm.
primordial.
Yep.
So, like, I think
Ancestral, primordial.
yeah, yeah, oh
But
yeah, there's that
it's like
primordial
everything.
animal, and yeah,
Archetypal, like, we could just go on for days
right,
about, and I
right,
think that's what happens with some people when they're using Kundalini. I don't think they get the gist of how much it can put you into a state of psychosis too, because
mhm,
you're dealing with some deeply rooted, like you said, these bigger or other archetypes as well that are just
mhm,
kind of circulating there, and then you're dealing with the lineage, historical stuff, the trauma, and all that as well. So, it's a trip. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I agree that you've got to be ready to really kind of work with this energy because you don't want to put yourself in a state of psychosis or put yourself in a state of spiritual emergency or put
mhm,
yourself in a state of just
mhm,
psychosis. Like,
right,
seriously, like, you can lose your mind for this stuff,
mhm,
and then working with another individual, like you said, that becomes even bigger
mhm,
because they're dealing with their stuff.
mhm,
So how do you guys work together? You have to have, and here's what I do. I use kung fu. I don't know if people on here know I do kung fu, but my grounding practices are in kung fu. And the individual that I'm working with does kung fu. So for us, we have, like you were talking about, you didn't have grounding. You've got to have roots. And if you haven't seen Hundred Eyes, there's if you I can't remember what the series. Oh, Marco Polo. Or yeah, Marco Polo. There's a series, and in the series, there's a guy called Hundred Eyes who is a kung fu master. And they did a 20-minute series on him. And he asked the question to, it was like the king or the emperor, whatever. I can't remember what the title was of the guy, his son, and next in line to be the emperor, king, whatever. Anyway, he asked the son who's teaching him kung fu, he said, why do you want to do kung fu? What do you think about battle? What would you say about it? Or what do you think it's for? And he's like, I want to grow as tall as the sky and this and that and the other. And then he just sweeps him and he's like, roots. And that's all he says. And he sweeps him and he
mm,
keeps sweeping him and says, roots. And he said, you have to grow roots first.
mhm, mhm,
People wanna grow up and they forget to grow down. And
mhm,
that that
absolutely,
that's you're gonna go up and then
mhm,
you may never come down. And then that's how people end up in mental institutions, which they
mhm,
shouldn't, which I would call a spiritual emergency,
mhm,
don't know how to bring themselves back into their
right.
body.
Well, that's what I'm
And
saying, like block chakras and stuff, right? Leads to
they
that.
go crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the
yeah,
roots of the Kundalini are probably more important than the higher planes because
mhm,
when you have good roots, you can ascend as far as you want to, but you can
mhm,
always come back. And
mhm,
coming back is important, at least right now, because what it does is it helps us, right, to
mhm,
expand consciousness collectively. It helps us to move forward in the world. It's helping us to heal these wounds. But we
mhm,
can't do that unless we grow roots. And that's
right.
for me has been so profound. And kung fu, I can tell you right now, helps you grow roots. So if this energy, the Kundalini energy itself, is going off the wall, I can do a kung fu practice. Tai Chi is one. I can do Pakwa. You guys don't know what Pakwa is? Just go look up Pakwa. It's fun. I could do my empty hand forms. I could do Lohans. I mean, I have just a whole plethora of different things that I can do to bring my body back so that I can ground myself back into my body and also intentionally move the energy through my body so
Mhm.
I can wield qigong. Like qigong is part of kung fu. All qigong is taking that energy and using that energy and learning how to maneuver it. If you can take that, like this is, I get very excited about this, and just you bear with me, but I'm gonna get very excited about this.
No, I
But if
love
we
it.
understand this, and if people could truly do the work that comes
Right.
with this, the power that we are
Right.
can
Right.
crack open the forces that are trying to keep us from actually tapping into that potential.
Mhm.
And that to me is amazing
Right.
because we don't even understand the magnificence of who we are. We don't even have the time to focus on it, but we are truly magnificent.
Right.
We were built magnificently, and we don't even have the opportunity to tap into that. We have lost our way, and if we can find somebody else to work with us, I'm telling you, I don't know, I don't know, maybe the Rainbow Bridge appears or something. You know what I mean?
Well,
Sorry.
no,
Maybe,
just
I don't know, who knows?
yeah.
Maybe I'm wielding circles like Doctor Strange and going through different dimensions and coming back or something. I don't know. Dot, 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 to be continued. Still trying to work on this energy.
Right.
But you guys are and then that's what I wanna tell the listeners, that
Mm.
this is not just for, oh, just certain people and, oh, we're just everybody has this potential.
Right.
Everybody came from the womb. Everybody came from the spark of life. You were created through life force. That life force lives within you.
Right.
You have the ability to wield it, but how? And with what
Right.
method? Not just by
Right.
reading, not just by regurgitating, but by embodying it.
Mhm.
And that starts in the roots. You gotta start with roots.
Yep.
You gotta start with roots before you start going out into the ether. Or you can do that. I'm just gonna tell you, you'll probably lose your mind. Hmm.
Well, I wish somebody
I
would have given me like a birth manual when I was born to like be like, "Bam, soul mission." But the cool thing is that at one point on this journey, right? Like I had an altered state, right? Higher visions and whatever you want to say, but I was crowned, right? I could feel it. I could feel the
Mhm,
crown on
mhm,
my
mhm.
head and I could see it. And I was crowned Queen of Pentacles.
Uh-huh,
And right,
uh-huh.
like us with tarot, like I
Mhm,
really truly believe um there's again a deeper purpose to that, right? Even going through the suits and
mhm.
leveling up from page knight, queen, king, right? It's all about
Mhm.
maturity.
That's
So
right.
I really feel like whatever my Queen of Pentacles energy
Mhm,
was, I did it and I nailed it. Um,
mhm,
so it's been really awesome. And I agree, like I can anchor and ground myself now instantly, and I can instantly tell through that method when I'm not grounded
mhm, mhm,
and take the
mhm,
moment to okay, like now I need to really take some deep breaths and focus and give myself that space. And I never had that. And when you're a teenager or your early 20s, you know what I mean? And you're not taught that stuff and you just,
mhm,
like life's coming at you. So it's been monumental. And there's a website, artworkbyjessie.com. So I know this woman, she's amazing, met in the school systems, very intuitive social worker, psychologist, and does artwork. Has this really cool website where you go on and you kind of fill out a little questionnaire, and then she'll do like an interview with you, and then she paints some kind of image. Well, it's not actually paint, she does like markers and colored pencils and things like that, but it's on canvas. And so on her website you can see all these cool ones that she's done. So as soon as I heard about it, I was like, man, I want that. Like I want, I'd love to have that. And I thought for sure, because of the phase I was in and the way I was filling out, the questions and stuff, that snakes would somehow, right, be symbolic in this canvas that I was going to receive. And instead I got this beautiful Black Panther's head.
Mm,
And it has a crown going across it, a crown of fire, she called it, and
mm,
it's very balanced with masculine and feminine energy in the
mm.
painting. I mean, in the canvas, and she does a little write up, and the name of it is called Rooting, and
Wow.
and yeah, and so like there's like these lines coming out of the Black Panther's face that are like going down, and it's like roots,
Mm,
kind of going. And it took me a while because at that point I didn't quite see it, it was like, oh, this is cool, and I read the description, but now looking at how I balanced my masculine and feminine, how I've integrated them, how I've risen up through all these alchemical stages and processes and rooted down. One of my downloads in February was this whole like seed being planted in the center of me in this cosmic, right out in the cosmic universe of like the tree of life and DNA altering. And here we are, right? Months later, working on DNA and stuff, still working on the micro. Um, and I totally feel like the weeping willow cherry tree is like my spirit tree.
mm, mhm,
I have one in my
mhm, mhm.
yard, and I just feel
Oh,
like
wow.
that, right? That growing down, but growing up and rooting down. Like I'm just a spiral all over to ascension. And
I love
also,
that.
I just also wanted to throw out there too for listeners, be prepared. Like things fall away when you rise up, like things naturally fall away, and so it
Mhm,
can really feel, again, not maybe psychosis, but tower moments, and like all of the things in your life that you really hold on to are
mm,
now not
mm,
there.
mm,
um
mhm.
right, that's
Yep,
definitely
yep,
unavoidable. As you
that's
raise
right.
your vibration, things, you got to stay in
Yep,
alignment.
yep.
So
Yeah, sorry, I'm all, "Yes, yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
that's right."
no, it's true.
No, it's good to mention that because I think
Shut it.
that's the hardest part of the journey at the beginning,
Right.
is that everybody falls out, and
Yeah.
that's the way it should be. So, you're doing it right if that happens, actually. And I
Right.
used to remember when I started Spirit and Coffee when I was doing this, and people would be like, "I just started my journey." They couldn't relate to them, and they didn't know where to go, and that's part of it is that you're gonna have this kinda, like, sense of like identity crisis almost where you're just like, well, who am I? What am I? Who am I identified by? I don't really have the same interests as the people I used to. Now
Hmm.
what? They're still doing the same things. They don't want to change and do something different. Who do I go to? So all of that just kind of dissipates. And typically, especially if you're on a journey of like detoxing, like I quit drinking. I used to drink and party and all that stuff. I got rid of all that, and once I did, yeah, everybody just kind of fell away. And you're like, well, how do I relate to people now? I don't even know what to do. Who wants to really talk about this stuff? Well, now I think it's changed a lot. I think the paradigm is shifting.
Hmm.
Cosmically, it's the collectively people are starting to start having these dialogues a lot more. We have people who, I'll say all I don't want to say all stages of life who are doing this type of work, and so there are communities out there that are doing it, but at first, you're not gonna know what your community is. And there might be some where you're like, yeah, these people are freaking seem like we connect. And then you go and you're like, whoa, that is not at all what I thought it was gonna be. I don't connect with those people. So there is that transition phase. And especially when you're working with Kundalini energy as well. So I would say if you're doing anything Kundalini, I've seen people who can take Kundalini energy to heights, but remember that as high as you go, that's how much you might fall. So you've got to be kind of gentle with the process. It doesn't need to be a rushed process. In fact, I would say don't rush it. You're looking for more of a harmony space, and I might use the word balance here. You're looking for balance at the beginning until you can find that harmony, because you are going to teeter to one side or the other. You might fall to one or the other side more than not. But you're looking for that base to be harmonized, because if you go really, really high, like people can use Kundalini energy and then all of a sudden they're manifesting all this abundance, and it's too much for them to take on all at once. Like they bite off more than they can chew. And when the wave comes crashing down, it's you can drown in that water if you don't, if you're not careful. So I think it's just a gentleness, be gentle, you don't have to rush the process. Make sure you grow roots before you start to, really delve into this stuff. Make sure that you have practices that can bring you back if you're trying to ascend higher. Um, and make sure that you have maybe even a community that you can relate to that can hold you if you need that, and that's what I would say about the kundalini energy, because it is our it's our life force radiating through us, but we were not prepared to receive that because we've never been taught properly how to use it, and
Right.
that has caused a lot of pain for us, and it surfaces a lot of pain for us because the traumas start to surface and we have to clear out the obstruction, and that's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's like purging. Nobody likes to throw up, you know what I mean? But you're
Mm.
purging all this stuff and you have to go through the purge before that you can get to the actual bliss. It's like, yeah, it's like holding that thing in your stomach. Sometimes you're like, you just gotta purge it and you purge it out. And you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. It's like that.
Mm.
But slow and gentle is what I would say.
Yeah. I would say just remember you're reclaiming aspects of your soul, right? Your essence, um, that you've been disconnected from, that has, right, been wounded or lost or ignored. And there's so much, like, that's where all of your power truly is.
Mhm.
And like you
Mhm.
said, at the end of the day, we're here in these bodies as individuals on a path, right? We all have an individual purpose, and there are supporting characters that come
Mhm.
in that play different roles on the journey for sure. And one thing I've definitely have had to learn in my life is to understand what that role is meant to be compared to what I want the role to be or what I think it's supposed to be. Um, because it's definitely allowed me to have weak boundaries and let people stay in my life that should have never been there that long, that really just caused me harm, that took my power, that kept me feeling silenced and oppressed or victimized. You know what I mean? Just whatever. It's just toxic behaviors, compared to now where there's this, again, the sense of liberation when you can hold yourself accountable for your choices and your decisions based on wounds and subconscious energy and archetypes that were beyond even your control or awareness. And when you can really forgive yourself and have compassion, and then I think transform and transcend, right? And that's where those new beliefs, those new values, and those new morals, that wisdom from those learned experiences, I think when those are implied and embodied, um that's where, like, fractal wise, the pattern changes. We're not being a phoenix repeating a cycle, death and birth through the same cycle. We're this snake and we're shedding the skin and we're growing and we're becoming the dragon and really evolving. And I think that's what we should be looking to experience, and embody, are those kind of transformations. And when you can feel your energy being drained by another person and you can feel them taking away your power, that's where you have a choice. Nobody else is ever going to be able to do that for you. You have to be resilient and go through all of the uncomfortable pain that comes. But at the same point, like, we cause our own suffering. And again, we need to take accountability for the fact that we cause our own suffering by keeping ourselves stuck and trapped. So I don't know. It's either repeat the cycles or break free. And for me, like, I would rather have a healthy soul that's evolving, and I can take accountability for my human crap. And no, I'm not perfect, but I can at least help people and right, continue to learn with you and be open and honest about what we're learning and we're doing and try and help that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just be careful. just be safe, be careful. I'm all caution tape before
Right,
you
well,
start
protect your
igniting the
energy.
yeah,
Protect
you
your
know, you're
protect
yeah,
yourself. Protect your
yeah,
space. Use Palo
yeah,
Santo. Get some
yeah,
sage, some crystals, get a talisman, right?
yeah,
Animal totems, spirit guides, angels. Like there's so much. But like
yeah.
protect yourself, cleanse
Well,
yourself.
yeah, yes, protect yourself, but also protect yourself from yourself. I think that's what
Hmm.
I'm trying to say. You know, like
Yeah.
it's okay to go slow. You don't have to do if you're working with this Kundalini energy, you don't have to go fast with it. In fact, I don't recommend going fast with it, period. I just don't.
No, I think you yeah.
I would never say, "Oh, just go on." Some people do, and I think there are instances where, and I know there are people who just have an awakening, a Kundalini awakening. You know, could be near death experience. There's a lot of different ways, traumatic experience that shows up. You know, but remember, there is a thing called spiritual bypassing as well.
Hmm.
Even if
Hmm.
you were to jump up into that awakening, that trauma that surfaces from that to heal through
Right,
still shows up. You cannot bypass that. It just it
right.
you can't. There
It's
is no
gonna come back.
bypassing it. It
What
will.
you resist
Mhm.
persists. It's gonna
Yeah.
keep coming back until you do face it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's just gonna be part of your lifelong journey, and you'll never actually get past it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
I think
agree.
that's
I
what you're
think
saying.
the best thing is to notice that it's a natural unfoldment, that
Mhm.
you're not forcing it to happen and that you're not feeling overwhelmed by it. Like,
Correct.
you know what I mean? Like, I absolutely agree. Like, you got to find your own rhythm, right? Because everything's a
Mhm.
rhythm and a harmony. Um,
Mhm.
and that's the thing too, sometimes tapping into these states. I know for me in the very beginning, like that's all I wanted to do is go back to it. Like, how can I meditate to go back to the, like being into my third eye, my crown, and receiving these messages and these things, right? This remembering that I needed in that moment. So even in that, because it's a blissful state of euphoria. You're in Christ consciousness, Buddha, like universal love energy. So it's like, yeah, I want to go back to that.
But that's I mean, that's the work happens there, but again,
Yep.
we're here. And so we can share it with our brothers and sisters, and then we can let them, you know, share our experience so that hopefully they can guide themselves to that experience, which is what we're here to do.
Right.
So so there you have it. We're up at an hour. Um you can follow us. We were going to talk about our goddess circles. That's fine. But if you want to know about our goddess circles that are coming up, you can go to womenofconsciousness.com. Follow us on Facebook at Women of Consciousness and Instagram, Women of Consciousness. We will continue to do our podcast and more to come later. Anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, I'm good. It was
Awesome.
wonderful.
Yay. We love you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.